I'm sorry. I can't assist with that. Nina stood at the edge of the old bridge, her heart thumping. The cold air brushed against her face, but the chill inside her felt much worse. As she watched the dark water below, she tried to focus on the sound of the rushing river, anything to drown out the fear swirling in her mind. She couldn't shake off the terrible weight pressing down on her chest. What if she hadn't been strong enough? What if it was all too late? Are you okay? Sam's voice cut through the fog in her head. His presence was a worn light, but his face was drawn, eyes wide with worry. It caused a fresh wave of guilt. She forced a nod, not wanting to burden him with her doubts. But just then, out of nowhere, the shrill sound of a siren split the air. Her heart skipped a beat. The noise echoed off the bridge, a frantic call that felt like it was meant just for them. What was happening? A police car screeched to a halt at the foot of the bridge. Officers rushed out, their movements sharp and urgent. Nina squinted, her breath hitching in her throat, as she noticed one of them pointing up at them. Were they in trouble? Had they done something wrong? "Look!" Sam yelled, eyes darting to the river. Nina followed his gaze just in time to see a figure thrashing in the water. "No!" The cry escaped her lips before she could stop it. There, half submerged, was someone she recognized. It was Jake, her little brother. Panic clawed at her throat. She thought he'd been safe. "Jake!" she screamed, her voice cracking. She felt the ground beneath her shake, a tremor of fear making its way through her body. Sam grabbed her arm, pulling her back as if he feared she might leap in after him. Off-duty paramedics rushed from the police car, their faces masked with determination. One of them shouted orders, and her vision swam with the chaos around her. She didn't care about the sirens anymore. Didn't care who was shouting what. All she could think about, "Who you think he is?" she shrieked, adding chaos to their already spiraling world. "He's been living a lie!" The words struck Nina like a punch. The world tilted. What did she mean, living a lie? As the water splashed around them and Jake struggled, confusion tangled in her thoughts. The crowd gasped, whispers rushing around like wildfire. "Help him!" Sam shouted to the paramedics. Panic bled into his face. They pressed forward, casting worried glances between Nina and the chaos behind them. But Mrs. Wilkins continued, her voice like ice through the noise. "You don't know the truth about your brother. He's in danger, and you're here blinded by love. You must know." Nina's knees nearly gave way. She glanced back at Sam, whose eyes mirrored her own horror. The truth? What did that even mean? And then, as Jake's arms finally disappeared beneath the rough surface of the river, a gaping void formed in her heart. What truth had she been denied? As she faced the chaos on the bridge, fear wrapped around her like a vice. Something had shifted forever. The ground felt unsure, and her mind raced toward the unknown. What lay beneath the surface? What was the heart of this shocking revelation? Nina's heart raced as she stood frozen on the bridge, reality swirling around her. Jake's desperate plea for help echoed in her mind, while Mrs. Wilkins's chilling words sank deeper, wrapping around her like a fog. "He's living a lie," she repeated silently, trying to make sense of the horror unfolding before her. "Someone grab a rope!" an officer shouted, eyes wide with urgency. The paramedics fell into action, darting forward as they prepared to save Jake. Their movements were swift, but the seconds felt like years. Nina's chest tightened. "Please," she whispered, the rawness catching in her throat. Familiar stepped forward from the crowd. She had wild hair and eyes that flickered with fierce determination. "You can't save him!" "What do you mean? We have to save him!" Sam yelled, his voice desperate. The woman shook her head, her face a mask of concern. "You don't understand. He's not just drowning. He's in deep trouble. The water isn't the only danger." Nina felt her world tilt again. "What do you mean?" She couldn't breathe. Every shuddering breath only fueled the flames of panic. She wanted to scream, to reach out, but she was rooted to the spot. Before the woman could answer, another massive wave rocked the bridge. The ground trembled. Then the air filled with crackling electricity. Nina's heart raced, feeling an intensity she couldn't place. An unnatural silence fell over the crowd. It was a heavy silence, soaked with anticipation. "Look!" someone shouted, pointing back to the river. The water surged violently, and then something emerged from the depths. It was Jake, but not Jake, not the brother she knew. His eyes were wide, but he appeared different. Something dark lingering in their depths. He reached out, but the shadow over his face ignited Nina's fear. It wasn't just fear for his safety. It was something deeper, something profoundly wrong. With a loud roar, the water erupted, revealing a massive shape beneath the surface. A creature, part man, part something unknowable, burst forth, dragging Jake under again. Gasps rippled through the crowd as they stumbled back. Nina's heart stopped. "No!" her voice cracked, and she suddenly felt a pull, an urge to dive in. But Sam held her tightly, shaking his head vehemently. "Don't. You don't know what that is." "Let me go!" Nina fought against him. "Jake needs me." But another revelation flashed before her. The woman from before. Her expression shifted. She stepped closer to Nina, her voice sharp, cutting through the violence. "You're not just a sister to him. You're part of it, too." The world fell silent again. "What? What do you mean?" Nina's voice trembled, confusion whirling within her. Sam's grip faltered, uncertainty swimming in his eyes. "Jake was never just a boy," the woman shouted, her eyes fierce. "He's hiding something huge, something monstrous, and so are you." A wave of realization crashed over Nina. Everything she thought she knew shattered. She felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. What truth lay buried beneath the surface? What secret tied her to Jake and this unfolding nightmare? As Jake fought against the water, desperation broke through the collective shock. Blurred voices chimed in a frantic chorus. "Uncover the truth!" the woman cried, her eyes locked on Nina. "Or you'll lose everything!" And with those words, the world tilted again, plunging her deeper into the unknown. Nina felt the ground shifting beneath her, uncertainty crackling in the air. Jake struggled in the water, and chaos roared around her. The woman's words echoed loudly in her mind. "You're not just a sister to him. You're part of it too." What did that even mean? "Get him out!" she screamed, the urgency pouring out of her. But the crowd shifted, and fear gripped her like a vice. Sam's grip tightened on her arm. A desperate anchor in a storm of chaos. The woman stepped forward, eyes burning with a fierce light. "Listen, you need to understand," she shouted. But her voice was drowned out by the screeches and whispers from the bystanders, who clung to each other in horror. Nina felt the surge of panic rise, choking her throat. "What are you saying? What truth?" The heaviness in the air thickened. She glanced back at the river, where Jake's arms were no longer visible. "No!" she wailed, her heart slamming against her ribs. Then, as if the world itself had answered, the water exploded. A massive figure shot into the air, dark and twisted, echoing her nightmares. It crashed down, sending waves crashing against the bridge. A collective gasp filled the crowd, voices trembling, fear weaving through them like a living thing. The creature was here, its features blurred, but there was a flash of familiarity. It was monstrous, yet something about it, something stirred a frightening recognition deep within her. And then it clicked. Her heart dropped. "Jake!" she screamed, tears streaming. This wasn't just any creature. This was her brother, transformed into something unrecognizable. The realization punched her in the gut, and a sickening terror twisted her insides. "Do you see?" the woman yelled, her eyes wide with urgency. "He needs you to awaken." The truth! Nina staggered backwards, shock gripping her. The chaos around her faded away. Everything hung heavy and still. What was she supposed to awaken? Was this even her brother anymore? As she locked eyes with the creature, a flicker of humanity shone through the darkness. Jake's eyes were still there, wide, filled with panic and pain. But they weren't just Jake's eyes. They were something more. Something linked to her. "You're lying!" Sam shouted, fear turning his words raw. He released her arm, stepping closer, his face twisted in confusion. "This can't be. He was just a kid." But it wasn't just a kid anymore. The creature twisted in the water, fighting. Against its own nature, struggling to break free. And then it seemed to pause, looking directly at Nina. The ground trembled beneath her feet. And in that moment of connection, Nina felt something deep within her tremor. "Stop fighting, Jake!" she screamed, desperate. "Come back, please!" But the creature didn't respond. Instead, a blinding light emanated from Jake, an explosive flash that forced everyone to shield their eyes. The same light engulfed Nina, washing over her like a tidal wave. Heat pooled in her chest, and for a moment, every doubt shattered. It felt like the very foundation of her existence was shifting. Then a voice, soft yet thunderous, reverberated in her mind. Truth is your choice. Choose wisely. And suddenly, the light faded, leaving only darkness and an echo of those words. Nina blinked, disoriented, and her heart raced. She felt more connected to the creature in the water than to anything in her life before. What did that mean? What truth was she hiding from? As she leaned over the edge of the bridge, the water splashed around and her breath caught. The urgency swirled inside her, impossibly heavy. What choice would she make? Could she truly save him or herself? Every heartbeat echoed her dread, and the world narrowed down to the one question pressing into her heart. What was the cost of awakening the truth? Nina felt the world narrow, a sinking weight in her chest. Truth is your choice. Choose wisely, echoed in her head. The blinding light was gone, leaving a heavy silence. She looked back to the river, searching. The creature now bobbed closer, Jake's face momentarily surfacing, filled with dread. Was he drowning? Or was he becoming something else entirely? Please, please, come back, she cried, her voice raw with desperation. The creature struggled again, dark water swirling, embodying everything she feared. Could he hear her? Did he even remember? But before she could respond, the ground beneath the bridge shook violently. People screamed, tumbling into one another. The crowd surged backward as the bridge creaked ominously, splintering like aged wood. Nina's heart raced. Panic clawed at her throat. "Get back!" an officer shouted, as fear spread wildly like a ripple in the water. Sam pulled her closer, but even through his grip, she felt a wild energy crackle in the air. Suddenly, a loud crack split the silence. The bridge trembled one last time, and without warning, a giant crack ripped through the structure. Nina gasped, frozen in horror. The earth yawned open beneath her, swallowing the ground and pulling people in. "No!" she shouted, as desperate hands reached out, some slipping into the widening chasm. Her heart sank. Chaos erupted, fear rising like smoke. Then, amid the chaos, the water erupted again. A massive whirlpool formed, sucking everything in, a violent force pulling at the very fabric of reality. Nina stumbled, trying to maintain her balance on the trembling bridge. "Jake!" she screamed, but the name barely escaped her lips. It was lost in the wild screams. As she fought against the pull of the dark water, she saw something rise, a figure. It was Mrs. Wilkins. How was she there? The woman had vanished in the confusion, but now emerged, arms outstretched as if beckoning her. "Stop!" Mrs. Wilkins shouted at Nina, her voice breaking through the chaos, urgent yet calm. "You need to see. Don't look away." "What do you mean?" Nina yelled back, heart racing as the whirlpool continued to grow. It was dragging everything, people, debris, everything into its dark grasp. "Jake is not just Jake." Mrs. Wilkins' words sliced through the noise, cutting deep. "He is the key to this entire mess." Nina's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" But even as she asked, A deeper instinct flared within her, a gut feeling that something monumental was about to happen. "Both of you, you're connected to this," Mrs. Wilkins insisted. "The truth runs deeper than you realize. You're not just siblings. You're tied to the very force that is below this river." Reality cracked, and time felt suspended. Nina's heart hammered, an unseen force working through her. "What?" she whispered, confusion tearing at her. Then the ground shook violently again, and out of the whirlpool, the creature roared, a visceral, gut-wrenching sound. But something shifted. The creature twisted, shifting between familiarity and terror. Nina's breath snagged in her throat. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. In an incredible moment of clarity, the form began to pull apart, revealing not a monster, but a swirling cloud of shimmering light. From within that light, Jake emerged, not as the creature she feared, but as a shimmering figure that seemed to share parts of him and pieces of something beyond comprehension. As Nina stared, a gnawing ache sprang forth, a recognition stirring deep within. This wasn't just Jake. It was some part of her, a manifestation of everything hidden between them. Each secret they never spoke of, every truth they buried. "Jake!" she screamed, voice breaking, tears streaming. "Come back to me!" But the light flickered again, pulling away from her grasp. The world trembled, shattering her certainty. "Choose now!" Mrs. Wilkins shouted, her eyes wide with earnest desperation. "You must grasp the truth, or lose him forever." Tears blurred her vision, and doubt clouded her heart. What was she meant to uncover? What had been hidden from her all along? The truth held in that shimmering mass felt like a collapsing star, inviting yet terrifying. As the vortex twisted tighter, with the bridge creaking and cracking beneath her, Nina realized she stood at a precipice. Would she reach out for Jake? Risk everything for a choice she might not understand? Or would she lose him to darkness forever? The choice burned in her gut as she took a step forward. One last desperate plea escaping her lips. "I'll find you!" But what could she truly find when the truth itself was fraying at the edges? Nina stood on the edge of the bridge, her heart pounding, the world collapsing around her. The shimmering figure of Jake flickered before her, and the suffocating chaos tightened its grip. "I'll find you!" she shouted, each word a plea swallowed by the wild screams around her. In that moment, the connection between them pulsed like a living heartbeat, desperate and raw. The whirlpool twisted violently, and Jake's shimmering form shimmered, slipping further into the depths. "No!" she cried, feeling her lungs tighten. The water churned, the air growing thick, and suddenly the dark creature roared again, sending a shockwave rippling through the crowd. People stumbled back, fear etching lines into their faces. Nina's breath caught. "Get back!" Sam shouted, his voice tight with fear as he pulled her toward safety. But she couldn't look away from Jake, her brother, caught in the swirling chaos. What truth was she missing? Why was everything falling apart? With a spark of desperation, she leaned over the edge. "Jake!" The echoes hung in the air, stretching time, layering panic onto grief. The vortex spun, and as if answering her call, everything shifted. The crowd gasped as a sudden, blinding flash illuminated the scene. A surge of energy exploded from the water, and her vision blurred. Then a wall of darkness crashed down, cold and unyielding, that plunged everything into silence. It wasn't just the bridge. It felt like the world itself was tearing apart. Nina stumbled backward, disoriented, and in that brief silence, she saw it. An outline emerging from the depths. Not just Jake or the creature she imagined. It was something even darker, more twisted than she had ever anticipated. Then came a voice, deep and resonant, echoing through the silence. "You think you know the truth?" Nina spun around. It was Mrs. Wilkins. Her expression transformed. Confident, powerful, but there was something unsettling about her. "What are you talking about?" Nina felt a chill crawl down her spine. Behind her, the air shimmered, pulling away from the darkness, revealing a figure! Another Jake! No, it couldn't be. This version held eyes that were hollow, void of humanity. The original Jake was vanishing into the growing darkness as if being consumed. And this entity, this twisted reflection, was rising to take his place. "Jake!" Nina screamed, her heart racing. "No!" Sam shouted, grasping at her shoulder. "This isn't him." But Mrs. Wilkins only smiled, a wicked glint in her eyes. "You don't understand. Priceless truths have been hidden in darkness. And I will reveal them." The wind twisted, and a sudden surge of energy crashed through the air. The ground beneath them vibrated, shaking the very essence of their world as the figures clashed. In that chaos, a portal opened, a vivid swirling maw of colors and screams that pulled at the edges of reality. And then everything changed. With a thunderous roar, the darkness surged forward and enveloped the bridge. The crowd screamed, chaos erupting, and as the world spun violently, Nina felt herself being pulled closer to that portal. "Choose," Mrs. Wilkins shouted, her voice echoing as if coming from everywhere. "Join him or stand alone. But remember, each truth has its price." In that moment, the true horror struck Nina like an electric shock. It wasn't just Jake's fate at stake. It was hers, too. Could it be that she had always been destined for more than just being a sister? A part of this sinister truth entwined with her. She felt the pull of their connection, an unyielding bond, yet it felt tainted. "No!" she cried, collapsing to her knees, desperation clawing at her chest. "I won't choose this." As darkness loomed closer, engulfing everything she knew, she screamed, "Jake!" in a final plea. But the air grew thick with despair, and the portal expanded ominously, drawing her in. With trembling hands, she grasped for something, anything to hold on to. But then, everything went black. The last thing she heard was Mrs. Wilkins' voice, cold and unrelenting. "The truth will change you. Are you ready?" And just like that, silence fell once more, heavy and foreboding. Nina's heart raced. What awaited her now? What had she truly lost? Nina felt everything slip away, darkness drawing closer. But then a burst of light flooded her vision. The air crackled, the ground trembled. A wind howled, wrapping itself around her like a shroud, cold and suffocating. "What's happening?" she gasped, panic closing in around her. And just as she braced for the weight of utter ruin, something shifted in the air. A pulse, a vibration she felt in her bones. Time froze, as if the world itself held its breath. Then she saw it, a figure stepping through the swirling darkness, bathed in an ethereal glow. It radiated warmth, contrasting against the chilling chaos. As it emerged, her heart raced. "Jake?" she whispered, confusion flooding her. But when the figure drew closer, her heart sank. This wasn't Jake. It looked like him, but there was an alien quality to his presence. His eyes sparkled not with fear, but with a knowing that made her uneasy. Nina staggered back, her head spinning. "Who are you?" She stammered, her heart racing. The voice that responded was like thunder, strong, yet oddly soft, resonating deep within her. "You are far more than you think, Nina." The figure smiled. "You've always known. You just buried it beneath your love for Jake. But now, you must understand." "I don't understand anything!" she shouted, frustration bubbling to the surface. "What do you mean?" The figure stepped closer. "Think back. Your memories, your family. They hide more than you've realized." As he spoke, images flickered in her mind. Laughter, tenderness, shadows of chaos lurking beneath the surface. You were born from love, but love twisted into something darker. Nina shook her head, disbelief carving her features. "You're lying! This isn't Jake!" "Jake was never going to be just Jake," the figure insisted. "He is part of this. Part of a lineage of..." Something remarkable and terrifying. With that revelation, everything shifted. The ground quaked beneath them, and the bridge creaked ominously. The weight of every heartbeat felt monumental. Her breath caught in her throat. "What are you saying?" But then Jake's voice broke through the noise, raw and desperate. "Nina, help!" He surfaced once more, his real self momentarily visible over the chaos. Frantic eyes locked onto hers. She froze. The figure faded slightly. A flicker of anger passing over his features. "Your choice," he repeated, as if teasing their impending doom. "Unravel it all or watch him drown." "Unravel what?" Panic clutched at her as she glanced between the shimmering figure and her brother, wrestling with the tumultuous water clawing at him. Suddenly, Mrs. Wilkins stepped into view, more resolute than before, her expression fierce. "You've got to face the truth, boy," she yelled toward Jake, "or you'll be lost forever." "Truth? What truth?" Nina shouted back, voice cracking, desperation mixing with rage. "What are we missing?" The figure loomed closer, darkness thickening around him. "Your mother, she was part of it too. And so are you, Nina. You were always meant to carry the legacy." The icy breath of winter wrapped around her. And in that moment, Memories surged. A lullaby sung softly, her mother's eyes flickering with shadows, unsaid words, lingering in every corner of her heart. The revelation churned in her stomach. "No, you're wrong!" But the figure grinned, the shadows swirling around him thickening, pulling at her like binding chains. Pull the truth from the depths, or watch everything you love disappear. A blinding light erupted from Jake, taking form like a falling star. Breathing heavily, Nina felt warmth and ice intertwine, the weight of choices crashing down, shaking her core. Everything she thought she knew, twisted, contorted into a web of obscurity. "Awaken the truth," the figure bellowed, no longer only an echo in her mind, but a command she felt deep within her bones. And as the bridge lurched violently beneath her feet, Nina's heart shattered into pieces. What had she truly inherited? Despair gripped her raw and real, clawing at her existence. Then came a deafening roar, shaking everything. The creature that had been Jake surged back into view. But it was more than that. The shadows writhed and twisted, drawing everything into a void. And deep within that void, she thought she saw a familiar figure. Faces she'd long lost to time and grief. Her voice echoed against the darkness, wavering. "No, I won't lose him!" And with that, a choice loomed ahead, as heavy as the darkness draping the scene. Would she dare grasp the truth and uncover what lay buried beneath her heart? Or would she turn away, leaving everything to crumple into oblivion? Nina felt everything slip away, darkness drawing closer. But then a burst of light flooded her vision. The air crackled, the ground trembled, a wind howled, wrapping itself around her like a shroud, cold and suffocating. "What's happening?" she gasped, panic closing in around her. And just as she braced for the weight of utter ruin, something shifted in the air. A pulse, a vibration she felt in her bones. Time froze, as if the world itself held its breath. Then she saw it, a figure stepping through the swirling darkness, bathed in an ethereal glow. It radiated warmth, contrasting against the chilling chaos. As it emerged, her heart raced. "Jake?" she whispered, confusion flooding her. But when the figure drew closer, her heart sank. This wasn't Jake. It looked like him, but there was an alien quality to his presence. His eyes sparkled not with fear, but with a knowing that made her uneasy. Nina staggered back, her head spinning. "Who are you?" she stammered, her heart racing. The voice that responded was like thunder, strong yet oddly soft, resonating deep within her. "You are far more than you think, Nina." The figure smiled. "You've always known. You just buried it beneath your love for Jake. But now you must understand." "I don't understand anything!" she shouted, frustration bubbling to the surface. "What do you mean?" The figure stepped closer. "Think back. Your memories. Your family. They hide more than you've realized." As he spoke, images flickered in her mind. Laughter, tenderness, shadows of chaos lurking beneath the surface. You were born from love, but love twisted into something darker. Nina shook her head. Disbelief, carving her features. "No, you're wrong! This isn't Jake!" Jake was never going to be just Jake, the figure insisted. He's part of this, part of a lineage of something remarkable and terrifying. With that revelation, everything shifted. The ground quaked beneath them, and the bridge creaked ominously. The weight of every heartbeat felt monumental. Her breath caught in her throat. "What are you saying?" But then Jake's voice broke through the noise, raw and desperate. "Nina! Help!" He surfaced once more, his real self momentarily visible over the chaos. Frantic eyes locked onto hers. She froze. The figure faded slightly, a flicker of anger passing over his features. "Your choice," he repeated, as if teasing their impending doom. "Unravel it all or watch him drown." Unravel what? Panic clutched at her as she glanced between the shimmering figure and her brother. Tumultuous water clawing at him. Suddenly the water churned violently. A dark shadow shot past Jake. "No!" she screamed, heart racing, as the figure twisted, revealing a gaping maw that opened beneath the surface. The creature emerged, glistening in the dim light, eyes locked onto her with a knowing hunger. Nina staggered backward, fear coursing through her veins. She could feel the tension swell around her. But that wasn't the shocking part. No, her world tilted violently when she heard an echo of laughter. A haunting, familiar sound that cut through the chaos like a knife. "Mom," she whispered, heart sinking, confusion, memory of her mother, long lost to the shadows until now. She hadn't expected to hear her voice again. But the laughter twisted, deepening. An unsettling echo filled the air. The light shifted, illuminating a figure behind her mother. A woman, pale and twisted, locked in a loathsome embrace with the creature. And then it hit her like ice water. "Jake isn't the monster!" she gasped, staring at the terrifying vision. "It's you! It's you!" The figure smiled, and in that moment, all the color leached from the world. "I've waited so long for you to understand, sweet child," her mother said, voice honeyed with malice. "You're the last piece of this puzzle. Our legacy is far from over." Nina's heart raced, confusion merging with rage. "You've been lying!" she screamed, her world turning upside down. The truth burned in her gut. "You're connected to all of this." The bridge shook, fragments crumbling around them. The air thickened with tension, and chaos erupted as Nina battled the weight of betrayal. "I won't let you take him!" she cried. But as she watched the darkness swirl around the creature, she understood there was no escaping the truth. "You're part of this!" Nina yelled at both Jake and the figure. They were two sides of the same coin, rocked in a battle. They didn't understand. "Choose," her mother echoed, a dark grin twisting her features. "Awaken the truth, or lose everything." And right then, with desperation clawing at her insides, the ground beneath her began to crack, the bridge shaking violently as the darkness surged up, swallowing her cries. What had she truly inherited? The light faded into the shadows, leaving Nina's world on the brink of oblivion. Would she dare face what lay beyond and confront the darkness entwined within her? Or would she let it all slip away into the void? Nina felt everything slip away, darkness drawing closer. But then, a burst of light flooded her vision. The air crackled. The ground trembled. A wind howled, wrapping itself around her like a shroud, cold and suffocating. "What's happening?" she gasped, panic closing in around her. And just as she braced for the weight of utter ruin, something shifted in the air. A pulse, a vibration she felt in her bones. Time froze, as if the world itself held its breath. Then she saw it. A figure stepping through the swirling darkness, bathed in an ethereal glow. It radiated warmth, contrasting against the chilling chaos. As it emerged, her heart raced. Like him. But there was an alien quality to his presence. His eyes sparkled not with fear, but with a knowing that made her uneasy. Nina staggered back, her head spinning. "Who are you?" she stammered, her heart racing. The voice that responded was like thunder, strong yet oddly soft, resonating deep within her. "You are far more than you think, Nina." The figure smiled. "You've always known. You just buried it beneath your love for Jake. But now you must understand." "I don't understand anything," she shouted, frustration bubbling to the surface. "What do you mean?" The figure stepped closer. "Think back. Your memories, your family, they hide more than you've realized." As he spoke, images flickered in her mind. Laughter, tenderness, shadows of chaos lurking beneath the surface. You were born from love, but love twisted into something darker. Nina shook her head, disbelief carving her features. "No, you're wrong. This isn't Jake." "Jake was never going to be just Jake," the figure insisted. "He is part of this. Part of a lineage of something remarkable and terrifying." With that revelation, everything shifted. The ground quaked beneath them, and the bridge creaked ominously. The weight of every heartbeat felt monumental. Her breath caught in her throat. "What are you saying?" But then Jake's voice broke through the noise, raw and desperate. "Nina, help!" He surfaced once more, his real self momentarily visible over the chaos, frantic eyes locked onto hers. She froze. The figure faded slightly, a flicker of anger passing over his features. "Your choice," he repeated, as if teasing their impending doom. "Unravel it all, or watch him drown." Unravel what? Panic clutched at her as she glanced between the shimmering figure and her brother, wrestling with the tumultuous water clawing at him. Suddenly, unravel. A long walk, not Dolan's. The water churned violently. A dark shadow shot past dim light. Eyes locked onto her with a knowing hunger. Nina staggered backward, fear coursing through her veins. She could feel the tension swell around her. But that wasn't the shocking part. No, her world tilted violently when she heard an echo of laughter. A haunting, familiar sound that cut through the chaos like a knife. "Mom," she whispered, heart sinking, confusion spinning out of control. She had lost her mother long ago. Her memories were nothing but glimpses of shadows until now. Her heart quickened, but the laughter twisted, deepening, an unsettling echo filled the air. The light shifted, illuminating a figure behind her mother, a woman, pale and twisted, locked in a loathsome embrace with the creature. And then it hit her like ice water. "Jake isn't the monster," she gasped, staring at the terrifying vision. "It's you! It's you!" The figure smiled, and in that moment, all the color leached from the world. "I've waited so long for you to understand, sweet child," her mother said, voice honeyed with malice. "You're the last piece of this puzzle. Our legacy is far from over." Nina's heart raced, confusion merging with rage. "You've been lying!" she screamed, her world turning upside down. The truth burned in her gut. "You're connected to all of this." The bridge shook, fragments crumbling around them. The air thickened with tension, and chaos erupted as Nina battled the weight of betrayal. "I won't let you take him," she cried. But as she watched the darkness swirl around the creature, she understood there was no escaping the truth. "You're part of this," Nina yelled at both Jake and the figure. They were two sides of the same coin, locked in a battle they didn't understand. "Choose," her mother echoed, a dark grin twisting her features. "Awaken the truth, or lose everything." Nina clenched her fists, tears streaming down her face. How could she choose? Everything she had known was unraveling. She was teetering on the edge of a chasm, pulled between the darkness of her mother's truth and the light of Jake's desperate existence. Then came a blinding flash, a surge of energy shooting upward, breaking through the tension like lightning. The light enveloped everything, illuminating the tangled web of emotions, secrets, and shadows. For a split second, she thought she saw the truth formed in the beams. Everything she had ever known, caught in a dizzying dance of compassion and betrayal. And just when hope flickered in her chest, the walls around them erupted. A scream shattered the air as the ground beneath her feet split open, revealing a spiraling abyss. "No!" She grasped at the air, a wild instinct begging her to resist, to hold on to something real. But then, in that explosion of light and chaos, everything shifted. The creature, reshaped and transformed, lunged upward. The figure of Jake twisted in apparent agony, merging with the chaos surrounding him. And just like that, a single word echoed through the air, a startling crack that cut through the chaos. "Mother!" The world stopped. All noise drowned out. All movement stilled. Nina's heart plummeted, shock coursing through her veins like ice. "Mother?" she gasped, every instinct screaming. "What does that mean?" As laughter bubbled in the depths beneath, she realized the creature wasn't just something dark. It was a reflection of their family's legacy, a legacy she never wanted to acknowledge. And then the ground fell beneath her, pulling her into the void. Darkness swallowed everything. Her screams became whispers. What did it all mean? What truth awaited her below? Nina fell into darkness, surrounded by echoes of her past. Heart pounding, She gasped for breath, the weight of the truth threatening to drown her. But then, a flicker. A glowing light pierced the void. She found herself standing on the bridge once more, everything around her vibrant and alive. Jake stood at the edge, eyes wide, trembling with uncertainty. "Jake!" she cried out, rushing toward him. "I came back for you." His face twisted in confusion. "Nina, you shouldn't have." "We can figure this out together," she pleaded, feeling the warmth of hope flicker in her chest. "You are not the monster they think you are." The void pulsed behind them, swirling with shadows. Mrs. Wilkins's ominous laughter echoed, a constant reminder of the darkness they faced. "You're too late!" she shrieked, her figure looming ominously, half hidden in shadow. "No!" Nina shouted. "This stops now." With newfound determination, she stepped forward. The weight of her family's legacy pressed against her, but she fought through. "Jake, listen to me." He looked lost, caught between the dark force and the brother she once knew. "Nina, I don't know how to fight this. I can feel it pulling me down." "Look within yourself," she urged, the lump in her throat tightening. "You have the strength to break free." The shadows roared as if they were alive, thrashing, ready to consume everything. But Nina felt a surge of warmth from her connection with Jake. "You're not just a product of this madness. You carry our mother's love, too." Jake's eyes shimmered, vibrated through them. "Awaken the truth!" they shouted in unison, voices harmonizing against the storm. The light erupted, flooding the bridge. The shadows recoiled, screaming as the energy surged around them. The world around them shimmered, aching with tension. The bridge underfoot crackled with electricity, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Do it!" Incited by their determination, the light amplified, wrapping around them. The creature surged upward, and for a moment, everything changed. Jake transformed, light bursting forth, the darkness retreating. The shadows were forced back, dissolving into nothingness. Mrs. Wilkins screamed, the twisted mockery fading away. The furious whirlpool stilled, the river glinting under the sun. Nina looked at Jake, the brother she loved. "Are you okay?" He breathed heavily, smile breaking through the fear. "I think I am." The world felt different now. The weight of generations lifted, leaving only their bond. "What comes next?" he asked, uncertainty clouding his expression. Nina squeezed his hand, heart soaring with hope. "We'll figure it out. We're together now." Still, there was a lingering question. What was the cost of their awakening? The truth was theirs to explore, but what did it hold? As the sun set over the bridge, casting long shadows and illuminating the path ahead, they took a breath together, ready to face whatever laid before them. And in that moment of quiet, they could feel it, a connection to something much greater than themselves. Now, the story of their family's legacy had just begun. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on our upcoming exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let's spread the word. Flood the comment section with your thoughts and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's keep this journey alive.